Alright guys, welcome back to this video, and in this particular video we are now going to look at registering the extension with the extensions API. And the whole aim of doing this is that we can then get an extension ID that we are then going to use it to authenticate to other APIs like the telemetry API later on. If we don't have this, unfortunately, we'll get a 401 error with other APIs. So this is quite a crucial step. Essentially, when we register our Lambda function, our Lambda extension with the extensions API, all we're doing really is we are sending a post request to the extensions API with the necessary information that is needed. And all we really need is to send it that post request with the name of our extension, and then it'll register us from there. In order to do this, we're going to do this in a separate file, and we're going to call it extensions extension API.js. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to import fetch from node fetch. That's what I'm going to do here, and then now I'm going to create a variable here with the string, the URL string that we use to authenticate ourselves to the extensions API, and it's HTTPS, and then we're gonna have to get, I want to come back to this, so it's HTTPS and then 2020 0101/extension. Okay, cool. Now in our environment, in our execution environment, there will be environment variables that are made available to our extension, and we can get these from the runtime. The environment that we are looking for is called AWS _Lambda _runtime API, right? And that's gonna give us essentially the URL, right? So once we have that, we're then gonna close it over there. Then we're gonna have two functions. We're gonna have let me do this. We're gonna have a function called register extension. Okay. Then we're gonna have another function called next. And this is I'm gonna explain what these are gonna do. Okay. The register function is kind of obvious in terms of what it's going to do. It's going to register us with the extension, so nothing fancy there. The next function is going to later on be used to allow us to essentially register ourselves to receive the next life cycle, if you will, right? The next event. So there's going to be events. There's a init event, there's the invoke event, there is the shutdown event. So we want to be able to be subscribed to all of these events so that we do what it is that we need to do based on what part of the life cycle our Lambda is in. So we're going to come back to the next one. I'm going to start off with the register extension function. So I'm going to say here console, let's say info, and I'm going to say registering extension. Cool. Now once we've done that, I'm going to say const result, and I'm going to say await fetch, and in here we're going to take the base URL, and then we're going to say /register. Okay, now we're going to pass it what's complaining about. So let me just do that, and I might as well do it to the next function as well. Cool. So now let's get the payload ready. Okay, and in the payload we're gonna have method, which is gonna be post. We're gonna have the body, which we're gonna stringify. Sorry, we are going to stringify, and essentially what we're gonna have in here is these are the events that we are going to register for. Okay, we're gonna register for the invoke event, and we're gonna register for the shutdown event, right? In other words, we're gonna get sent we're gonna be sent certain data based on just those two life cycles essentially. Okay, and then we're gonna have to pass it some headers. Pass it some headers, and or within the headers, we're gonna say content type, and we're gonna say application slash JSON, and then there's another header that we have to pass in, which is the Lambda extension name. Which in this case is metrics extension. Right, cool. Yeah, so that looks, just checking if everything is okay. Okay, cool. Now, what we want to do here is that we want to test if result okay is false, we want to say console.log, console log an error here, and say error registering extension. However, if it does pass, not do else, so I'm gonna say extension ID. Okay, so from the result, it'll come back with headers, and what we want to get is the Lambda extension identifier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to console.log. I'm going to console.log and say info. I'm going to say extension ID. And then I'm going to say the extension itself. And then I'm going to return the extension ID, so that when we then call the function in the index.js file, we're able to then get the extension as a return value that we then pass to other processes later on. So what I'm going to do is in the async, I'm going to import from extension API.js. I'm going to import the register method. And once I've imported it, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to write a comment and say register the extension to the extension with the extensions API. So then const extension ID equals, we're gonna have to await it and then register. Okay, cool. That's all we have to do. Then what I'm gonna do is we're gonna have to test this, and it's a bit of a pain to test these, quite honestly. But essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how we're gonna test these. So I'm on the console right now, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the Lambda service, which is gonna bring us to this right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a Lambda function. So I'm gonna create a Lambda function here. We're gonna author it from scratch, and we're gonna call it metrics extension test. It's gonna be Node.js 20. Happy with the architecture, and then we'll say create. While that's happening, I'm gonna reveal this in File Explorer, and essentially what we're gonna do is, excuse me, one step up, and then, we're gonna do this. We're gonna compress this into a zip file. There we have the zip file over there. And then we're gonna go back now to the console, and then we are going to go to layers, right? So Lambda extensions are deployed into AWS as a layer. and the layers themselves are then made available as code to functions. So if we create the layer here, I'm just going to say metrics extension. I'm not going to give it a description. I'm just going to upload the zip. So if we go to, I believe it's here. If we go to serverless here, we go to Lambda to get the extension there. And then if we come here and say create, that is essentially us. We've deployed the extension. Excuse me. It's a bit tedious. So essentially what I think we could possibly do in the next iteration of this topic is we could build a pipeline that then does this for us. Essentially, once we write the code and we push it, it'll do all of this in the background, so that by the time we get here, all we have to do is, this is what we're actually going to use. So by the time we get here, all we have to do is to go to our function, go inside of the function here, and then simply just add the layer here. Right, so sorry, I just clicked on the wrong thing here. All we have to do is just add the layer from here and then specify the ARN. So if we say I copied, no, I didn't copy it. Shoot. Let me just come here, go to layers again. So go to extensions, and then just copy that, just close that there, and then paste that in. We can verify if we need it, and it'll show us information about that over here, and then we'll just say add. Cool. Now you'll notice that if we go to the bottom of the page, there's our Lambda extension here. Okay, and if what I'm going to do is, let's just console. I'm just going to console the event here that's coming as an argument to the layer. Just deploy that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a test. Okay, so I'm going to just create a test here, create a new test. I'm just going to say metrics. I'm just going to say test case. Yeah, that's fine. This one's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Now, if we do the test, right, notice that our Lambda will run. And sometimes this can take a long time the first time. But you see, there's a crash here. Oh, okay, cool. So essentially, it's working. It's able to invoke the Lambda extension, but we just need to make sure that we're using modules instead of just because we're using import here. So that's what we're going to fix in the next video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with registering with the telemetry API once we test that. All right, but thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.